to talk a little bit about a methodology that I use called Getting Things Done, and I also use a program called Todo.txt that I use in order to keep track of all the stuff. So I'm going to do a quick overview of what GTD is, Getting Things Done, GTD, and Todo.txt, and what I do in order to try and stay sane in my life. As you probably can tell, I'm not usually doing a very good job, but... So we're going to talk a little bit about GTD under Linux. So tonight, Tuesday, 9 p.m., we go over to Red Lobster, have conversations and whatnot. But eventually, that turns into Wednesday, 9 a.m., back at the desk. And then you say to yourself, what now? What am I going to do? Usually, most of you have a pretty clear idea what it is that you're supposed to do. But sometimes, you have to make the balance between, what's going on at home, what's going on at work, etc. And it's kind of like a game, in a way. I mean, there's rules, there's things you can and cannot do, things that'll make your life a lot easier, things that'll make your life a lot more difficult and whatnot. And once you understand those rules, you have a better time playing the game, at least. So I'm going to quickly go over what Getting Things Done is. Getting Things Done, there's a book by David Allen, The Art of Stress-Free Productivity. It's a new edition. They finally removed all of the references to PDAs and other sort of technology that really people don't, you're not setting up your Palm Pilot anymore, which is kind of sad in a way. I mean, I miss my Palm Pilot. There's also another book, Making It All Work, which is kind of like the next level. It basically is a restating of what's in Getting Things Done, but it kind of focuses more on the higher levels of focus and whatnot. So what is GTD? I keep using that term. It is a trademark of the David Allen Company, registered trademark. It is commonly referred to as a time management system, but that's really kind of reductive in a sense. I mean, it's not really trying to figure out what your time is, how to section off your day and all this other kind of stuff. It's more of a system for life management and focus management. The concept of mindfulness comes into play as well with this. Trying to make sure that you're focused on whatever it is that you're doing at the moment, and there's nothing going, hey, you need to do this, hey, you need to do that, etc. It's completely technology independent, so you don't have to, like the Franklin Covey stuff where you had the whole quadrant stuff, and you have to buy the special planner, special calendar and all that kind of stuff. This is completely technology independent. You can go out and you can use pen and paper in order to get this all set up. You can go crazy and find all these different packages that are out there that will do GTD for you. Completely up to you and how much strain you want to take. So the key elements of the GTD system, first off, you have to capture everything that has your attention. Whether it's physical or digital. You have to have context-based. So you have to make sure that where it is that you are, you can do those particular things, and you have a list of those things. So like for now, my at-home list is pretty much useless because I'm standing in front of you talking. It has a next actions list, which is a list of the physical actions that you need in order to complete a project. So it's basically, take a look at this list and say, these are the next physical things that I can possibly do in order to make this project complete. You have a project list which has a list of successful outcomes. So these are the things that you want to make sure that, these are the things that you want to have complete when it's all said and done. You have a calendar for the hard landscape, which has got your appointments, day reminders, all that other kind of stuff, birthdays, tickets for the DSO. I need to have, this is the date that we're going, and this is the date that I need to make sure that we get those tickets, etc. So, other key elements, there's a waiting for list. Those are for items that you're waiting on for other folks. Like if I'm waiting on Jim for something, I can put a waiting for Jim, hey, that thing, what about it, etc. There's also a weekly review, which is a key element of this. That's to make sure that your system is constantly up to date. There's also horizons of focus. So you have roles, 1 to 5 year goals and plans, and your life's purpose. So, and I'm not going to get too much into that. There's just basically, for me, it's just a tick list, and, all the different things that I have, as my roles, things that I have that I want to do with my life and, life's purpose, if I haven't actually figured that out. Someday maybe list, so this is for stuff that you're not necessarily committed to, but you want to remember. So, stuff like languages that I want to learn, programming, speaking, otherwise. Things that I don't necessarily have any commitment to do at the moment or have any idea how to make that happen at the moment. Just stuff that I want to be reminded of, but not necessarily something I'm going to do in the next couple of weeks. So you want to have a single system. You want to have something for both work and home. You don't want to have a separate system for work and a separate system for home. You're one person. Keep it simple. And I think that's probably going to, yeah, your life is more than just your work. Ideally, your life is more than just your work. If your life is just your work, well, can't help you there. But one system is hard enough to maintain. So again, you're one person. It allows you to think of your work with the other projects. It also allows you, if you are, you know, let's face it, if you're out and about and you happen to be, you know, grocery shopping or something like that, some of your best ideas will probably happen when you're not at work. You're in the shower, and some of your ideas about, you know, things that need to happen are probably going to happen in a meeting when you're sitting there thinking about everything else but the meeting. You know, you're thinking about dead batteries or something like that. That's usually an example that they use all the time. It's like, you know, what do you think about dead batteries when you turn the flashlight on, etc. But those ideas come anywhere. So put it more strongly, just don't make a separate work system. Just keep it simple. There's 5 phases of work that they've identified. I'm going to use, they have updated terms and then the older terms, so I got those together. First is capture, basically collecting all the information that's out there in your life, making sure that it's available to you. Clarifying it, so figuring out what the heck it is, what you want to do with it. So that's a distinct step from capture. Capture is just writing down the stupid thing, then later on, step over here, what the heck is this? What did I write down, etc. Organizing is figuring out which buckets to throw it into, etc. Reflecting is just taking a look through those lists and seeing if there's any value on it. You know, if it's after Christmas, I probably don't have to get Christmas gifts anymore unless I want to be proactive and, you know, catch the after Christmas sales or something like that. And then engaging, the actual physical action of doing the work. So we'll go over those real quick. For capturing, basically any thought that you have more than once should be captured. So anything like, you know, the dead batteries that I'm thinking about, I should probably write them down. So what I have for my systems, I have a field notes and a pencil that I carry around all the time. And it can do a challenge thing. If I don't have it, then I owe you a buck. But basically, if any thought that I have at any moment, I write it down. So the meaning comes later. For now, just dump it out. Don't worry about what it means. My capture tools, like I said, I've got you all have email inboxes. Pretty much, that's how everyone gets a hold of you. You have those both for home and for work. You probably have more than one for home and or work. I use Genius Scan on the Android. So if I write down something on a piece of paper, I just scan it in using my phone. It's a really cool tool. I have physical inboxes at home. And yes, physical is not an option. I know how everyone likes to do digital. I understand that. I would love to do everything digital as well. Reality is that you will get paper in your life. You don't have to deal with it appropriately. And I use a command line program called Journal for command line journaling. So I just type in JRNL, type in whatever thought I have at the time, and then review it later. Notepads, I use Moleskines. I used to use Moleskines. I use Field Notes now. They're really cheap, cheerful. And the nice thing about it is that if it gets wet, I don't have to worry about it too much. You can just toss it out. Really inexpensive. So why physical? Well, after one PyCon, this is what my desk looked like at my other house. And as you can see, it's a bit of a mess because I basically brought everything home with me and it got stuffed onto the desk. And that's the biggest flat space I had available to it. But an amazing thing happens. When you throw it all in the inbox, it's a little clearer, a little cleaner. It's nice. You can actually look at the desk. You can actually work on it. And then I can go through it and basically it's like, okay, why do I have a puppet on my desk? I don't know. Put it away or something like that. So, clarifying. So you figure out what it is and what's the next action. So you pick up the puppet. Say, what is this? It's a puppet. Okay, what's the next action? Well, it's a puppet. I probably, I could play with it,
Yep.
Or I could put it away. I could throw it out too. It's not really, I'm not attached to it or anything like that. But, it's kind of nice. So, in the deposit it goes. Boom, done. There's a 2-minute rule. So if you can finish it in 2 minutes, if I can put that puppet away in 2 minutes, put it away. Don't worry about it. Because basically it's going to take you longer to track something than to it's going to take you longer to track it than 2 minutes. So if it's less than 2 minutes, just do it. One thing at a time. So if I pick up a puppet and a piece of paper is attached to it, what do? Do I sit there and go, oh, well, what's this piece of paper? No. Pick the puppet. Say, do the thing with puppet. Okay. Then the piece of paper. Then all that other kind of stuff. One thing at a time. They can figure out if it's actionable, reference trash, etc. And then nothing goes back into the in basket. And this is the hardest thing ever because there is a temptation for you to go, okay, pick up this thing. What is this? Yeah, not right now. Don't do that. Okay? I've done it. No good can come of this at all. Just make sure that if you pick it up, do something with it. Figure out what it needs to happen with it.
What if it's a bill that you don't have your computer on right now to pay it?
Then you put it in that say, I want to fill up this particular bill online. I don't have my computer in front of me. Put it in your system, and then put it in a file folder or something like that, and put it aside. That's the next action for it. Unless it's something like I got to wait on getting the money in the bank account or something like that, at which point then you put in there waiting for money in bank account to pay bill.
So you say put it there in your field notes, you write a little entry? Or?
No, because this is another in basket. But what I would do is I would put it into my system. So if I had a bill, what I would do is say add pay Brian Steve's bill.
Journal program?
No, this is Todoot text.
Okay.
Let's say your bill is 123.33. I'm not actually going to pay you this, but I do, bills. And then when's your bill due? Let's say it's due on at the beginning of the month. So it'll automatically put in there that that's due at the beginning of the month.
So assign like task ID 179?
Yeah.
Now you're going to schedule 179?
Yeah, and now I'm going to delete it because I'm not going to pay Brian a damn thing.
Well, that's harsh.
So I also have virtual inboxes as well. I have a downloads folder, so that's where everything that I download off the internet goes into. And I also have a Dropbox folder. That's where all the stuff for Genius Scan goes into. Also, I have another thing that I use every now and again. I can't remember. It's like a journaling program on my phone that I automatically have to go into the Dropbox folder. So the idea is that you get to inbox 0. And this is a term coined by Merlin Mann that he's trying to get away from, but it's a really cool term, which is that the inbox gets to 0. So some of you have not seen what an inbox is that looks like 0. That is a MUT session with inbox 0. There's nothing in there. And I've seen some people's desks in that, and I've seen the emails. You got these piles of emails in there. It's like, how the hell do you work with 100, 200, 1,000 emails in there? How do you figure out what's new? You don't. Get it out of there. Get it somewhere else. Yeah. We're not going to shame you.
I'm going to shame you.
So, the organization phase. If there's no action to it, do you want to keep it? Yes or no? If you want to keep it, you can throw it into a reference file, put it down in the basement, wherever, as long as it's, in its permanent place in the basement. And I know some of you have basements. I have a basement. And that basement is a giant inbox, basically. It's like this giant section over by the wall that says, this is an inbox. Maybe you want to do it later. That goes into someday maybe. Clean out the basement. Am I going to do it right now? Am I going to do it in the next 2 weeks? Ideally, I want it to do it in the next 2 weeks, so it doesn't go into someday maybe, so I've got a next action in there that says at home basement. But if it were something like, get the bikes ready for next summer or something like that, I'm not doing that right now. So that would probably go into the someday maybe. And if you don't want it, don't need it, throw it out, donate it, get it out of your life. Why keep something around that you don't want, honestly? And this can also be hard too, because there's some things it's like, oh, but this, it's my phone bill from 1993. I mean, it might
warehousing.
There might be some reason for me to keep that. No, and it's like, no, shred it, get it out of there. And then more organization. If it's actionable, if there's more than one action, then it's a project. So clean the garage. I'm not going to go out there and clean the garage. There's more than one step to cleaning the garage. Got to find nails to put the brakes up on the wall, all that other kind of stuff. So figure out what the next actions are there, and then put those on there. Go to the hardware store, buy nails. Go to Meyer, wherever, buy nails. buy that nice little garage organizer that I thought, was kind of neat, or price it out, whatever you want to do with that. Figure out what the next actions are to that. And then on your projects list, say clean garage. And you'll know that the garage is clean and that you'll be done when you can finally say, that garage is clean, cross it off. Is it a single action? Then just put it on the next actions list. If it's a day-specific event, like I want to gather a whole bunch of people so that we can go and clean my garage, then it might happen. There's pizza. Then
Pay your bill, I'll help you.
then it's a day-specific event. You say, okay, from 2 to 4, we're cleaning the garage. Bring your grubbies.
You ever get an invite to Craig's house, watch out.
Exactly. Clean my garage.
Free pizza.
Or if you're waiting for something to happen, then you put it on your waiting for list. I want James to get back with me on whether he's going to help me clean my garage or not. Not happening. All right. So, context. And these are a nice way to break down where it is that you can do a particular action. So, if it's somewhere, and I've got several of these in here, at computer. Basically, if I'm in front of a computer, then that opens up this list of things that I can do. If I'm at home, this is another list of things that I can do when I'm at home. Now, for those people who work at home, where at home and at computer is the same thing, at least section it off by room. So you can say, okay, at the computer room, at the office room, whatever, that's where I do this particular thing. So at least you give yourself a mental context, so that at office isn't necessarily your kitchen table or something like that while you're trying to do other stuff. Because otherwise you're going to have a list that's like 36 items, and you're not going to be able to want to do that at all. At calls, basically anytime you're in front of a phone, which is probably everyone's in front of a phone now. So at least when you have the time, inclination to call someone, which for me, if I have to call someone, it better damn well be good, and they better be on fire, because I hate using the phone. But anyways, it's something where you absolutely have to call that particular person. Add agenda is any time that you're seeing that particular person and you have the ability to talk with them, that would be, put it on the agenda. So I usually put, like, my boss's name is John, so I'll put John : blah, 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 add agenda. So that's the next time that I see him, I can at least take a look at that list. And add errands, Meijer, hardware store, Paul's Auto Wash, any of those places like that. Places that I go, and want to do something at that particular place. At least it's a reminder, hey, I need to do this. Reflecting and reviewing is reviewing the list for the next actions and things to check off. So on a day-to-day basis, at least go through the list, make sure that they're current. Not necessarily in depth, but just, pull out some of the cruft, it's like, oh, I did this particular thing, whatever. Review your project list as needed, usually once a week at least, to make sure that everything is up to date and that you're working on the things that you want to work on, and that you've completed the things, because things have a tendency to sneak up on you. You manage to get through a day, you complete a few things, you don't necessarily check them off. That's one thing. Reference materials, that's any file folders, any material, binders, any other sort of stuff that you have that's related to that particular project. It could also be coupons or anything like that. I don't know if anyone clips coupons, but every now and then you want to review them just to make sure that they haven't expired. Or that if you're going over to Barnes & Noble and you got the coupon, that you actually have it and that you're not fumbling for it, etc. Minesweep. Basically thinking through your day, it's like, okay, anything that's on my mind, get it out, get it back into capture. So it kind of flows together with the capture process, but at least it's something that you can say, okay, just sit back a little bit and just give yourself the opportunity to breathe, think about your day, etc. And occasionally the higher altitudes, basically any roles that you have, any goals that you might have, things that you want to do with your life. Think about that, want to be in the career that you're in, think about that. Things going okay, cool. Things that, may necessarily, you want to think about further up, think about those. That's about that. So there's a concept once a week to do a weekly review, which is a thorough, cut out a few hours of your schedule to actually think about the things that you need to do, go through your list, go through your next actions list, etc. And make sure that everything's current, that you have next actions for every particular project that you have, that all the projects that you have are current, and aren't necessarily complete or whatever, or still things that you want to do, and if they're not something that you want to do, or something that you don't feel you're going to be able to do in the next couple of weeks, kick them off to the Sunday maybe list. But basically, it's carving out a few hours to make sure that you're up to date and current, and that everything that you're looking at is the freshest that it possibly can be. Okay, and there's another thing that you need to do with your weekly review, and that is do it weekly. If you don't do it weekly, so do your weekly review, and do your weekly review weekly. The reason it's called a weekly review and not a monthly review is because it takes about 7 days for your mind to let things go and stop trusting that you're absolutely up to date and current with what it is that you're doing. So, if you don't do a weekly review, and you do like 14-month or 14-week review, or not 14-week, but a 14-day review, or a 4-week review, or something like that, you're not going to trust your system. You're going to look at it and go, it's not current anymore, and it's all going to come right back up in here. And then one of the things about GTD is to make sure that it doesn't live up here, that it lives out here, and so that you can be more objective about it. Because when it gets up in here, something funny happens when it gets up in here. It starts muddling around with everything else that's up in here, and you start losing the ability to concentrate on what it is that you're doing. So, get it out of your head, do your weekly review, do it weekly. And then getting into the actual doing part. And this is the fun part. This is the part that we usually spend most of our time in. Ideally, you should be filtering it by context. So what can I do at that particular moment? Where I'm at. The time available. You probably don't want to do that 30-minute thing if you only have 5 minutes before a meeting. You're probably not going to be able to do it unless you can figure out how to mash up time. And if you can do that, let me know. How much energy you have. Are you toast? Do you want to do something? Do you have enough energy in your day to do that? And then the priority. And priority is a really sticky thing, because we're all driven by priorities. Come April 15th, if you haven't done your taxes, your priority is to do your taxes. Full stop. Or file an extension, one of those two. So priority can get a little nebulous, because I'm sure, like most of us, we have this, we all have not really as important but still need to get done priority stuff, like kind of the background radiation of the day. It's like all kind of one level, certain things peak up here and there, or things like that. Or if you're in other places, it's usually somewhere up around here, and everything is just completely noise at that point. So priority gets a little nebulous. Just trust your heart, trust your judgment in that, what your priority means to you. You'll probably figure out what to do. So the threefold nature of work. There's stuff that you do that's predefined, so the stuff off your next actions list. You can be defining your work, so do your reviews and all that other kind of stuff and make sure that you know everything that's going on in your day. Or you can do what most of us do, and that's pretty much the last person. We have a stack. Basically, it's LIFO. Last person in, first thing out. So, the last person that comes into our office is usually the first person to get something done, because they're usually the one that just dumped the giant stinking bag of doo-doo on fire on our desks or whatnot. And so that's the last thing you have to do. And sometimes, that is the next thing that you have to do. The server blew up or something like that, you have to do it. But also, at least get back to your next actions list at some point during the day, pull back a little bit and say, what is it that I'm doing? The server's on fire. Maybe fixing the server isn't the thing that we need to do, but also maybe we need to go and schedule, okay, how do we make sure that the servers don't go blowing up all the damn time instead of fighting fires all the time? That's it. So the key parts of the GTD system are context-based filtering. Where can I do stuff? It needs to be fast. You need to be able to drop something in there on a moment's notice, with no hesitation whatsoever. So if you have to bring up your phone, fiddle around with it, unlock screen, blah, 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 okay, bring this thing up, you're not going to do it. Have something at least that is fast, or at least if you're doing something and you're capturing something, write it down first and then dump it into your slow mofo system, So make it at least fast so that you can do this stuff. Needs to be flexible, so it needs to be able to work with where you work. If you have something like a website or something like that, you have to, go in there and you have to work your way around how it works, and it's not necessarily how you think that the world should work, but you're kind of bending around it, you're not going to use it. So you have something that's flexible and that works with the way that you think and the way that you work. And it has to be fun. You're not going to use something that you don't enjoy using. I mean, we all enjoy using Unix. It's fun to use. For some people, that's not fun at all. Bringing up a terminal, not happening. So it has to be fun for how you think fun is. So I use a program called todotxt. It's available on Windows. It's available on Unix. It's available on Android, iOS, Chrome. There's a plugin for it, etc. And it is, by all accounts, first off, it has context-based filtering, so you can put @ signs in front of things and tell it what context you want. It is fast. I can go, you saw, I can bring up a command line terminal, type in something, and something is already in
There's
here.
your T command.
That was my T command. And I'll show you what I did for that and how I set that up. It's flexible. It's text files. Is there anything more flexible than a text file, I ask you, rhetorically? No. There is nothing more flexible than a text file.
And you can,
It is fun to use. I enjoy using this program. It's something that I bring up a terminal and it's just, I feel great. I mean, it's not like, woo, we're gonna bring it, no, that's not like that. But at least it's, I'll just shut up now. I can edit it with a text editor, or I can edit it with Vim or any other inferior text editor. It is easy to parse with Unix tools, so I can go through and I can put something into my cron tab and have it automatically add stuff to it. I can bring up different tools and whatnot. I mean, it's text. Unix is text. It's all easy to parse, easy to use. It is also a standardized file format for next action. So all the programs, there's not just the ones that are on the todotxt site. There's also other programs. I'm using one on here called Simple Task. SimpleTask for Android, and it is compatible with todotxt, but it does some other interesting stuff with that. So there's at least 2 options on Android for it, and a whole slew of other programs that are available that use this particular file format. So yeah, it's a collection of applications for using that. It's cross-platform, so Windows, also Macintosh, etc. It is developed by Gina Trapani and a dedicated community. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with Gina Trapani. She's awesome. She was the co-founder of Lifehacker and did a whole bunch of other stuff. Yeah, that's where you've heard the name. Yeah. So it's Lifehacker-ish approved, and she wrote it, she uses it. It's free software and open source, and it is card-carrying badass awesome. And what do we mean by that? Well, let's start off, and it's available, that's the main hub for all of this stuff, todotxt.com. And there's also like a whole bunch of programs, but basically it's an up-to-date resource of all the programs that work with this particular format. So here's the basic usage of it. So if I wanted to add a record, draft over a presentation for GTD at PenguinCon, you can tell where I stole these slides from. I type in Todo.sh, add, and then the rest of the command line is available for me to use. The plus PenguinCon, they use that as a project. I use it kind of as a tag because I'll get into that in a bit. And then the context, so at computer. So I do the drafting of a presentation for GTD at my computer for PenguinCon. That's how you parse that particular sentence up there. That make sense? Okay. So if I want to list all the things that are in my at computer, and it's a kind of a canned example here, but it tells me the task number is task 187, draft of a presentation for GTD at PenguinCon project, and then at computer. And that's the project there. So if I list all of my at computer actions, if I grep the file for all the at computer actions, that's what will show up there. Okay? If I want to mark something as done, all I do is I say todo.sh do 187. It says task 187 is now complete. It prepends the date that that particular action was done, puts the rest of it in there, throws that into a file called done.txt. So if I want to archive that, or no, I'm sorry, it doesn't do that right now. It marks it as done, so it leaves it still in the to-do-text file as done. So if you look at your list, it'll still show an X in front of it, the date in which it was completed, and then the rest of the text of whatever it is that you completed. And then basic to-do text usage. If I want to list all the contexts, at the time, this is what I had for my context. So I have my @agenda for people I want to talk to, @bills, anything that I'm paying right now as bills or something like that. I don't necessarily want those in front of my computer stuff, because I'm not going to be paying bills all the time. So I created a separate context there for when I'm doing bill paying. My @calls list for when I want to ignore the phone. @computer for when I'm in front of the computer and I want to do something related to computer stuff. Maybe not necessarily all the stuff that I'm doing for my @office stuff, because I sit in front of the computer at my office. So it's the context of anything that is not work that requires me to use a computer. My @errands, go to Meijer, pick up milk, etc. My @home, sweep, what's that? Sweep up the cat litter, scoop up the cat litter, everything related to the cat litter. @office, everything that I do whenever I have to be in front of an office computer, or anything that I do at my office. @parents, anything that's related to going over to my parents' place, because they had stuff that needed to be done. @read is some context that I use for when I wanted to read stuff. I would put down there, you know, what page number I was on. So it's kind of like a bookmark that I would use for that, for all the stuff that I wanted to read. And @waiting for any stuff that I'm waiting for. So
where does the data sit?
right now on my computer, I have it under Dropbox.
Right.
So
Okay. So
if it's basically tilde/Dropbox/todo, TODO.
Right,
So,
so syncing up with Dropbox. So
Yeah.
Does your mobile sync up too?
yes, it does.
Alright.
Oh, yes.
If you got a private GitHub account, you can do it that way too.
I get it now.
Yeah. So the reason that I use Dropbox, and I'm going to go over there real quick, is Dropbox syncs up with my mobile device. So my mobile device has access to all of my lists. So I can take this with me and have access to my list. Simple Text and the To-Do-Text Android application understand context filtering, understands how to add text to this, etc. So it's really powerful, and it's across multiple devices. I can also have it on my office machine, so I can add stuff there as well. And yes, I could do it using Git, except that all of the Android stuff uses Dropbox to use. So if you look over here, you got a little list here. That's my to-do text file, right there. This is where things are done, etc. And I've also got all of the horizons of focus, like the roles and all that other kind of stuff. I've also got other lists in here, because you can create lists pretty easily with to-do text. So I've got stuff in here like games to learn, habits I want to learn, gifts to give to Jody, stuff for learning challenge, open mailcast interviews, someday maybe lists, etc. Wish lists, things I want to pick up, etc. So it's really handy. It's really easy and quick to make a new list in this. And it's also easy to keep everything all nice and synchronized, so I don't have to think about it. Not having to think about it makes it fun for me to use.
So those ID numbers, the task IDs,
Those are the line number.
yeah, they're not fixed for that project, right? Or
No, they're not fixed. So if I do an archive on this and I have something that's complete, anything that is complete in there will automatically get bumped out into the done file, and then everything that was underneath it will bump up. Which gives you a really horrible way to figure out what you haven't been doing lately, because anything at the top of the file is suspect. It's been there a while. So I don't necessarily have to look at context though. I can take any word that's in that file. Like if I want to look at Penguicon, I can look at that file and it will grep through and find all of the instances of that particular word in that file. And it'll present all the line numbers that are associated with that. And there's also a bash alias because typing Todo.txt is not something I want to do. It is not fun. So I can alias that out so that T equals that, which makes it even more fun because then you can do something like prioritization. So let's say there's something in there that I want to prioritize. I want to put it up at the top of the list. So I can say prioritize 186 with the priority A. If I do the list again, then that will show up at the top of that list. And you can use A through Z if you prefer, for priority. You can get really crazy with all your priority stuff. It gets really noisy really quickly. And if you run it through any other program, it also will ANSI color it for you, and so you'll get all this lovely ANSI noise if it doesn't understand. So projects. If you want, I keep all of my stuff in the same list. What they recommend is, well, first off, it's the outcomes that I want to have happen list. So it's anything that I want to be true when the project is done. The problem is, in GTD parlance, what they say is you want something that clearly defines what it is that you want to have happen. So putting something like garage in there doesn't mean anything to me. Putting something like clean garage is a little warmer. Clean the garage so that I can park the cars in there. There is a specific instance that is going to happen. There's a picture in my mind of parking my cars in my garage, in that nice clean garage. So instead of clean garage, which kind of has a nebulous thing, it's like, when do I know when it's done? When I can close the door behind me on a rainy day, that is when that is done. And that's a much better way of putting it. The problem is, under To-Do-Text, they don't have great project support baked into it. Their idea of a project is putting a plus sign in the project name. So you have this little tag. So like clean garage so that I can park the cars in there would be clean _ garage _ and it just, no, that is not how I live. So what I use is I use it as a keyword list. So if I want to tie something together, I use it as a tag instead.
The time is now 8:31 and the library will be closing in 29 minutes at 9 p.m. Please be advised that the internet will shut down 10 minutes before closing. Thank you.
As it always does. So I use a separate project tag for each of my projects, most of the time, anything that I want to keep together. So if I want to do something like convert Penguicon slides to hieroglyph, I put a project tag in there so I know that that's a particular project. It's not a context that I want to keep in there, it's just a tag for project. So if I also use Penguicon in there as a tag. So anything that's related to Penguicon, if I want to look at all the stuff that I want to do for Penguicon, I can use that as a project. So you see there, I'm using Penguicon as a tag in this instance. And these are, this is the project that's associated with it, and these are the two next actions that need to happen in order for me to say that the slides are complete and in hieroglyph, which is what I'm using for my slide program. Waiting for. This is, again, for any time that you're waiting for someone else to get back with you on something. What I'll usually do with that is I'll put the person's name in there and say, okay, this person's name, I am waiting for this particular thing to be done. And that's how I use that particular thing. What I'll also use it for, these may look a little strange up in here, but we have a ticketing system, and that ticketing system juts out numbers. And if I want to know what that project was and what ticket it's associated with, that's a very handy way of keeping that all together. Not only, if I complete a next action, I need to move on to something else. It's like, okay, which ticket number is that associated with? Boom. Okay, go to the ticket system. Da 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 da. I did the thing. Okay, boom. And then, put a waiting for the ticket to actually get closed, or whatever I need to do in order to make that happen. So there's some handy add-ons that we use with it. I use schedule. Schedule allows me to put a date on a particular next action. So if I have all the stuff that's related to Penguicon, I can add a date to it and say, on Thursday, I need to have this particular thing done. There's a little danger in using dates in here versus dates in your calendar. The distinction that I use is that a date on a calendar is something that has to happen on that particular day. Like there's a specific time that's associated with it, or something has to be done on this particular day. But that's like the hard drop dead line or something like that. And I use this just to let myself know, okay, coming up, there's this particular thing, like my bills. You know, on this particular day is when the drop dead date for me being able to pay this bill is, you know, 5 days before, because the bank can't get the cash out in time or whatever. So I'll put that date on there, and then I have a program that I use, which will show me, I use this with V, and it will show me the due dates that are coming up, and you can tell it in the next 2 weeks what's coming up. So you get yourself a little, you know, radar of all the stuff that's bubbling up to the top. Yeah.
THU, that's Thursday? What is?
THU is Thursday, yes.
And it knows that? Or is
It
that-
knows,
It created the date because it knows that
Yeah.
when you did this, next Thursday was,
the 23rd
Okay.
of April. So it uses basically the date format to figure out when, you know, so if you wanted to do next Thursday, it would figure out next Thursday is blah, blah, blah. I think it was next Thursday would, in this case, it would be the 15th. As opposed to like if we did it on the 15th, then it would go to the next week, next Thursday. So it understands that nomenclature, which is really handy. Recur. So I have a cat, and I need a little reminder every now and again, you know, to clean her poops. Sometimes the smell is not enough to let me know. So I have a thing in there that does a daily recurring thing for scooping her poops. Or Pixel's my cat, yes. And then on Friday, I have a timesheet that's due. And so what'll happen is that, and when Friday rolls around, like the night before, the night when Friday rolls around, Recur will go through and find all the things that are on that particular date, and then dump it into my to-do-text file. So that way, I look at it and it's like, oh, at office, oh, there's a timesheet that's due, and I can dump that in there. And then when I finish it, mark it off as done, and then next week, you can do your timesheet again. I have multiple lists. So this is LF, is list files, and it'll list all the files that are in the that directory that I showed you, the Dropbox directory that I have. So, and do I have?
Looks like more lists than I can keep track of.
No, it's not that hard though, because all this is, well, first off, let me show you the recur text. No, I did it wrong, of course. So this lets me edit the recurring file. So those are all the things that need to happen that recur, and when they need to happen. Let's see. So these are stuff that, you know, I'd like to read at some point. You know, all I have to do if I want to move those over is I do T-move. There's a format for it, and I'm going to botch it really hard, but reading, to do, no, shoot. I think it's reading.txt, to do txt. And it moves migrate. Oh no, that's going to do it the other way around. Okay, so that's, it can move lines between different files. So, the someday maybe text thing, I can do, if I do someday.txt, LF, and I can give it, much like the rest of it, you know, something that you want to search off of, and it'll bring up, hey, it might be a cool idea at some point to get some artists that I really like to do some music for me for a video game, if I ever do that. Or watch the O'Reilly HTML5 video game development videos. That might be cool to have. Or, you know, I could add to my someday maybe list, get David Revois from Pepper and Carrot to speak at PenguinCon. That would be cool. He's over in France and whatnot, but you know, it might be cool to get him over here. He does all this open source stuff with an open and free comic called Pepper and Carrot.
Can you query multiple lists at once, like say, look at all?
You can only do one at a time, but again, it's also text files, so you can go into that directory and then do grep-n and get basically the same thing. Or actually, no, grep-l. I always forget which one does the line numbers and which one
And
does
its numbers.
L
and
is list file.
that, thank you, okay. for whatever reason, those occupy the same space in my head, and I always have to do one or the other. So what's the point of all this? You know, at the end of the day, what is the point? Well, first off, it's to keep everything off of your mind. So as you're going through the rest of your day, you know, you're not thinking about all the things that you need to do. You're not worrying about, okay, you know, well, I'm doing this particular thing, but I probably should be doing this other thing over here, and this thing could be really good. And, you know, spending all of your time just, you know, waffling back and forth about what it is that you're doing. It's basically to be present, in the moment, focused on what it is that you're doing at this time, being mindful, as it were. And then know what you need to do at any given time. So, you know, if you finish off something and you got some extra time, if you're at the doctor's office, you know, and you got a little time to kill or something like that, an extra 30 minutes that you didn't know you had, you can probably work on something. You know, or you could be, you know, in eternal limbo trying to read the highlights magazine that some kid managed to do.
That's right.
Bastards. And know also what you're not doing in that moment. So be okay with that you're not doing all the other, you know, 180 things that you have going on in your day. And you can focus on the one thing that you're doing. So that's it. Any questions?
How long have you been using the system?
2001.
Wow, that's
Wow.
fabulous.
Yeah, at the very least. I think it was a little earlier than that. I've been through several iterations. I speak knowingly of using Palm Pilots for this because I used JPilot, of all things, to try and get my system hooked up with it. I used the Evolution plugin to try and do the Palm Pilot. There are many open bug reports probably still out there for Palm Pilot stuff not working in Evolution.
Dropbox to pull together.
Exactly. Yes?
Their Todo is very nice, but you also mentioned JML is a journal program, you have a URL for that?
Journal, yes. What Journal does, it's very straightforward. You can say, this,
Do you have a URL for it, place to get it?
let me see if I can
Google
get,
search got swamped.
yeah, let me see here. Fortunately, I talked about it, yeah, I talked about it really briefly, and I never really updated it. Oh, no, this is not working at all, what the heck?
We can,
Is the app gettable?
Here we go. Life is worth recording.
CRNL.com.
we can provide a list of links with the video.
No.
So I think it's the one right below it, the journal.sh.
Yes, there we go.
Yeah.
jrnl.sh. So you can tell it, you can give it stuff like yesterday at 2 p.m. I used it to do this particular thing. You can show different journal dates and that. And what's handy about this is if you are solving a problem, let's say you're on Stack Exchange and you got 15 tabs open up with Stack Exchange. Do you, A, rely on your history to try and figure out which was the tab that you needed to have? Or B, do you just write all the stupid tabs down and then maybe throw something in there? Yes, I know.
Or C, leave all those tabs open.
Or leave all those tabs open till the end of time and then worry that when you do another upgrade to Chrome that it's gonna lose your tabs. You know? So throwing it into a journal or something like that is cool. It's also handy because you can do it like this. And there it is. So it's fast, frictionless journaling. Yes?
So, you said Dropbox. Is there other options to just store files, or?
You can use whatever you want to store files. The reason that I choose Dropbox is because all the Android programs use it in order to gain access. At least the official, quote unquote, because Gina wrote it, Android app uses Dropbox exclusively. Simple Task, I think, has a cloudless backend that it can use, but I'm not sure how it works.
The iOS app also wants Dropbox.
Yeah, so Dropbox is unfortunately the same default for all of this stuff, and if you want to use something else, then you have to try and figure out how to hack it in there.
Which is good. Hey, you can make a fake Dropbox.
Yeah, I think there's also Google Drive or stuff like that, and I'm sure there's there's like about 1 billion Android applications probably for copying a file off of your phone onto a cloud-based thing if you want it, or some other place.
I believe we had a
And vice versa.
presentation on having your own cloud,
Yeah, there you go.
so you can
My
use
cloud,
own
yeah,
cloud
my
and.
cloud.
Tony to come talk about
My
own
cloud.
cloud.
Nextcloud, I think is what they call it, isn't it?
Split.
Yeah.
we gotta wrap up.
Yeah, we gotta wrap up, so thank you.
Yeah, we're supposed to be out of here like right now. So, the library really likes it when we exit on time, and they
Yes,
really
we-
don't like it when we linger. So I'd like to ask everybody to not linger right now.